And hello, everybody. Welcome to one of the biggest episodes of 2KU Weekly we've had yet. This is week 14. Technically, it's the conference championship week. We just had some of the most exciting games we've seen all year happen over the weekend, with a lot of great streams, some internet problems, and some weird shenanigans along the way. But it's finally time to wrap up the regular season and look ahead to the postseason. I'm Type A Joy 101, joined as always by Danny V, but we have two special guests today. Of course, Pigbear returning after a couple streams, and also Foxie Hikari returning once again. Why don't you two introduce yourself, Pigbear?
Yeah, it's good to be back here on a Tuesday for the second time this year.
Foxy?
Again, good here, and looking forward to another amazing run of 2KU.
All right. Not a lot of headlines here, not a lot of games. We only had all the conference title games. We'll look over the top stories. Number one fell in double overtime. The Oklahoma State Cowboys, number one team in the country, falls to the Colorado Buffaloes. That game was a classic. We'll talk more in depth about that later. The winning streak continued, but not without a scare. Stephen F. Austin remains one of only two unbeaten teams in the country with a win over Southeastern Louisiana. We'll talk about that as well. Birmingham upset UCF, takes down the 11-1 BCS-bound Memphis to win their 10th straight conference game. Meanwhile, in the Music City, the SoCon Championship, William & Mary beat Georgia Southern a few weeks prior. However, the Eagles got their revenge in incredible fashion, shutting out the William & Mary offense and ending with 13 total sacks on the game. The Bowl Mania is amogus. Bowl games are about to be announced on Sunday. It'll be 2KU's week 15. It'll be on the 11th, I believe. And up next, we have one more game on the season, one more regular season game to be exact, the Army-Navy game, of course. One of the greatest rivalries in all of sports, let alone college football. And how about the top four? 3 of the top 4 teams all lost this weekend. Those being Oklahoma State, UConn, and Illinois, all falling in their conference title games, but we'll get more in depth on those later. Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, this is a really fun weekend. We all stream them all live, so if you want to check out those games, check out some of the live streams.
Foxy, Pigbear, anything?
Not really anything on my end here, although a lot of action going on in the top four with a lot
Yeah,
of
I just saw a great week of football.
Uh-huh. Let's move on to our first games. These are the games we played on Friday. We'll start with the SoCon Championship, 17-0, the final score. Georgia Southern dominating William and Mary to improve to 10-3 on the year. Their first conference win in some time. They had quite a bit of a struggle. However, they managed to pull through and claim the SoCon title. They got humiliated last year by rival App State, but they bounced back and capture what is their 9th SoCon championship. Danny?
Yeah, it was a good game and a good for Georgia Southern. So
Pigbear?
Yeah, just a good game out in the SoCon, a CASN member.
Uh-huh. Foxy?
Oh, wish we could have seen a little bit more of a fight from William and Mary, but there's always next year.
Uh-huh. I expect William and Mary to perform very well as they did last year. They had a very rough game this time around. As I mentioned, 13 total sacks on still raw quarterback James Hall. We'll actually be seeing some of William and Mary later when we do awards tonight. We'll be moving on to the Conference USA Championship, and UCF, in dominant fashion, getting a statement win to wrap the season over the heavily favored Memphis Tigers, 38-15, the final score. Memphis was looking to go bowling, not just bowling, BCS bowling for that matter. However, the Knights stole it away and nabbed themselves the conference championship. Their first since 2018. Danny, thoughts as a UCF as a UCF alum.
I am happy about this. UCF, they won it in a great way, even though there was some errors, like as we saw in the stream, which people should check that out of
That's one of the
little
weirdest.
safety, but
It's
it
one of
was
the
a great game.
That was one of the weirdest glitches I've ever seen in this game. Go check that out. UCF took a pick all the way to their own end zone for a safety, but it didn't even matter. They won big. 38-15 was the final. Pigbear, your thoughts?
They're the Gold Knights, correct?
Foxy?
Oh boy, as a soon-to-be Orlando resident, let me tell you right now, this makes me very, very happy right about now here. Good job, UCF. Here's to an amazing bowl season.
All right, we'll move on now to the last game of Friday, the Pac-10 Championship, a top 5 matchup, USC winning a big game, stopping Stanford from getting revenge, 38-17, the final. Well, it was definitely important, but I don't know how important USC would realize this game would end up being. We'll talk more in depth on that in a moment. But USC, after the Pac-10 Championship, was certain they were going to the Rose Bowl to face off against a very good team potentially in Illinois. But things would change very much. The landscape would change entirely over the year. We'll talk about that later. Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, it was a good win for USC, and we're gonna see how big this game was in a little bit, but it was a great matchup for them.
Pigbear?
Yeah, it's just a good game this weekend. Get a feel away from the Rose Bowl.
And Foxy?
Incredible game right now. Shame Stanford couldn't get the revenge that they wanted to, but I'm sure they're going to be even more hungry in the next year.
Stanford, if you do recall, are the reigning 2KU champions. They won it in 2021 in the Rose Bowl over Baylor. Like, we might see them play in the same stadium 2 years in a row. Who knows? But we'll move on now to the MAC championship, which started us off on... Sorry, saw something in the background. Which started us off on Saturday. Central Michigan rode into this game, 10 wins, looking as heavy favorites, but it was the Ohio Bobcats who shut them down to get their 10th win of the year and upset the Chips to take the MAC championship. Danny?
Yeah, we were all, or at least most of us were expecting Central Michigan to dominate, and for University of Ohio to pull out this upset. That's great for them, especially with how their division was looking a lot of the time.
Pigbear?
Yeah, just good win for the Chippewas.
Or Bobcats.
Bobcats. Sorry.
And
they're watching some basketball highlights.
Foxy?
Boy, this is an upset if I've ever seen one here. Congratulations to Ohio for pulling it off, and we'll see exactly what the bowl season holds for them. Central Michigan, I expect them to come back very hungry next year, just like Stanford.
14-10 the final score in this game. Next game on Saturday was Oklahoma State at number 1, Colorado at number 16 entering that game. This was expected to be Oklahoma State getting a statement win over Colorado, just blowing them out in Arlington in front of a rampant crowd. However, the Buffaloes would not lie down. They kept this game close throughout, got several late scores. Oklahoma State would tie it, and this game would go to 2 overtimes. Colorado got the first score. Oklahoma State had the chance to tie it and send us to a third overtime, but it was intercepted at the goal line by a Colorado defensive lineman, which punches the Buffaloes not only to a 10-win season, but to a BCS berth, and knocks the number 1 Cowboys possibly out of the national championship game. Danny?
Yeah, this was one of the best games we had in 2KU this weekend, and great job for Colorado. It was an impressive win, and they had nothing to lose, but they had everything to gain, and they proved it right there in the field.
Pigbear?
Yeah, just great game for the Buffaloes, and I mean, you possibly knocked the Oklahoma State Cowboys out of the national championship. What a game!
Uh,
That is getting that's that's getting your job done when it counts.
mm-hmm. Uh, Foxy?
Wins like this over the number one team in the country don't come often, and especially on conference championship games. But let me tell you right now, Colorado really wanted this, and Danny's right. Nothing to lose, everything to gain, and really big congratulations to them.
All right. Let's move on now to the Big East Championship. A similar situation here. UConn rolled in 12-0. They were the number 4 team in the country. They were expected to roll over a 10-win Temple, but this one was even more surprising. Temple took it in a romp for most of the game. They were dominant, including several big defensive plays and a touchdown. This was also, if you know the background, this is the first Big East title played at MetLife Stadium. It's the first title not played in Philadelphia for the Big East Championship game. The Owls saw this and seized revenge. This is their first Big East Championship since they shared it with Miami back in 1993. 34-21 the final score. They beat the number 4 UConn Huskies. Danny?
Yeah, UConn, they were having national championship pictures, but Temple, they decided to come back roaring and they snatched up the Huskies and flew them away.
Pigbear?
I guess no more UConn. But again, winning it when it counts. Way to go for the Owls. They definitely get a helmet sticker for this week.
Uh-huh. And Foxy?
Oh boy, this is gonna be a tough one for UConn. That football program, they have not had a good history, and this is yet another slap in the face when they really don't need it the most.
This is probably the best season UConn had in years. Though I do expect to see them still in consideration for a BCS Bowl. They are 12-1, so you have to take that into consideration. But Temple automatically punches their ticket to the BCS Bowls with the conference championship win here. They are 11-2 on the year. We'll move on now to the ACC championship. This is probably my favorite game I saw this weekend. And Virginia Tech was number 6. North Carolina was number 8. A top 10 matchup here between the Hokies and the Tar Heels. The Heels looked pretty impressive to start. However, they ended up slipping just a bit, and that was all Vatek needed. The little gap was enough for them to claw their way back into this game. And at the end of the game, quarterback Michael Kelly heaves it up, just hoping for a prayer, and finds a wide open receiver. Takes it all the way on the walk-off bomb. 26-21 the final score after they failed the 2-point conversion. What a big game for the Hokies there, BCS bowling. Danny?
Yeah, that this game was big for both these teams because they were both one loss. They both played very similar opponents, and whoever won this game went to the Orange Bowl. And Virginia Tech, they came out on top, and glad to see them performing as well as they did.
Yeah, Vatek punched their ticket to the Orange Bowl, or maybe even something more. Pigbear?
I mean, Hokie A, Hokie High, Polytechnic, VPI, just good win for the Hokies in Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. Shame that the Heels couldn't get it done in front of their home crowd. Foxy?
Oh boy, another top team going down. This is something for Virginia Tech right here. I would definitely anticipate North Carolina coming back hungry next year, but great win for Virginia Tech here.
Interesting bit of trivia. This is the first time in ACC Championship era history that we've had a three-peat title. Vatek has won their 3rd straight ACC chip. They won it in 2020 when they won the national title. 2021 they went to the Orange Bowl. And 2022 they're up for another BCS Bowl once again. We'll move on now to the SEC Championship in Atlanta.
I said real quick.
Oh, pardon me?
It's not an exaggeration to call Charlotte a home game for North Carolina. Again, the Charlotte fan base. Yeah, Charlotte fan base is so great in the North Carolina fan base is so great in Charlotte. Sorry, got things mixed up there for a second. That essentially they could pack that place out with Carolina Blue. But again, so essentially was the Hokies road win.
Yeah,
good job for going to a hostile environment.
The environment just wasn't enough to keep the Hokies down. We'll move now. We'll now move once again to the SEC championship game. Number 7 LSU reeling from a last week loss to Tulane. I believe it was 28-7 was the final score in favor of the Green Wave. They faced off against Georgia Tech, a team who rolled their way through a contender in Georgia. Both teams on different sides of the fence. And so the Tigers were the underdogs, but they managed to hold close all game, force us into overtime, and it was the Tigers who ended up stopping the Jackets in OT and claiming their second straight SEC championship. Danny?
Yeah, that we did see this game earlier this season with LSU traveling to Georgia Tech, so it was basically that matchup again, just in another stadium. But congrats to LSU for beating Georgia Tech. It was a big win for them.
Pigbear?
Yeah. Good win for the Tigers.
Foxy?
Man, LSU just continues to win, and I wouldn't be surprised if a bunch of other SEC teams eventually get tired of all of this here.
I believe that's Danny. I think your chair's a little loud.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
We'll move on now to the Big Ten Championship. Lucas Oil in Indianapolis. The number three Illinois Fighting Illini came in 12-0. Big wins this season over teams like Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio State to roll into this game. I'm hoping to secure a spot in the Natty when both UConn and Oklahoma State could not. However, Sparty had other ideas, completely shutting down the Illinois offense, the only team who's been able to do that all season long. It's Michigan State, the huge underdogs in this game, who get their 10th win and a BCS spot. 19-7, the final score. Michigan State, their first Big Ten championship since 1994. At the time, it was the longest drought in Big Ten championship history. Danny?
Yeah, for Michigan State, this was a make it or break it moment, and let's face it, for them to get this big win against Illinois, who was kind of a bit sleepwalking, like they weren't prepared for this game, but Michigan State, they pulled it off.
Pigbear?
Oh, crap.
Yep. Well, then, Big Bear.
Or Foxy?
Yeah, for my own safety, I'm not commenting on this, but my connection is starting to brown out a little bit, just letting you guys know.
Alright.
I'll stay on as long as I can.
Well, we'll keep going as much as you can. Pigbear, is that you?
Yeah, I just had to get running and get something really quick.
Alright. Your thoughts on the Big Ten title game here?
Yeah, Sparty, good win for Sparty.
Alright. We'll move on now to the Mountain West Championship. I had a brownout during this game. Some terrible internet going on. However, this game, if I'm being honest, not much was missed. Number 2 Boise State came in, and in spite of Wyoming coming close late, the Broncos just sort of steamrolled in this game. 31-23, the final score. Boise claims the Mountain West Championship. This was their 7th appearance in the title game and their 7th time contending for the Mountain West Championship since joining the conference back in 2011. But this might be the biggest season they've ever had, as now they're basically locked for the national championship if things all line up for them. A good performance for the Pokes, however, Boise rolls in this game 31-23. Danny?
Yeah, for Boise State, they were one of the best teams in the country, and for them to have this huge monumental win for them, it's just amazing to see how they have progressed this season, and let's hope they can continue winning from now on.
Pigbear?
Yeah, it's just go Broncos, go all the way to the Natty, if everything falls correct.
And Foxy?
This could be huge for Boise State right there to bring some legitimacy to the Mountain West Conference. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Trying to prove that BYU back in 2019 was not a fluke and that the Mountain West can contend for national championships on the regular. Let's move on now to the games we played on Sunday. These are still slated as Saturday games, but I couldn't do them because of the time constraints, of course. We'll start in the Southland Conference. Toyota Stadium in Frisco, Texas. The final year that the Southland will be playing in Frisco, they announced the move of their conference title game to San Antonio, starting in 2023. However, Stephen F. Austin rolled into this game as possibly a top team in the country. One of only two teams, along with Boise, who remains 12-0 up to Sunday. However, the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana, who rode into this game 7-5 and some of the biggest underdogs we've ever seen in a conference title game. They contended, they led this game for the longest time. However, some weird shenanigans happened late. Down by 3 in Southeastern Louisiana territory. Stephen F. Austin punted. It was caught by Southeast Louisiana about their own 15. They took it a few yards and fumbled. It was recovered by the Lumberjacks, and then they'd score the game-winning touchdown to end the game and keep their perfect season alive. CNF Austin wins 2016 to claim the Southland and a BCS spot for sure. Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, for Stephen F. Austin, this was just a great win for them. They are undefeated. It's a great miracle story for them, and even though Southeastern Louisiana pulled off a fight, they proved that they could still hold on to their undefeated season.
Pigbear?
Yeah, just great job for the Lumberjacks, Stephen F. Austin. Call me crazy, put him in the natty.
Foxy?
Stephen F. Austin for the national championship alongside Boise State. Let's go.
I wouldn't go as far to say that, but Stephen F. Austin, definitely on paper one of the best teams in the nation. We'll have to see how this program's history goes forward from here on out. We'll talk about some Stephen F. Austin in the awards, which we'll talk about later, but we'll move on now to the Missouri Valley Championship, the Dome at America Center, a low-scoring, and I mean low-scoring game here between Northern Iowa and North Dakota State. This game was scoreless up until about 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter, when North Dakota State threw a good pass, got into the end zone, diving into the end zone for this game's only score, 7-0 the final. And North Dakota State once again captures themselves the Missouri Valley crown. The Dakotas have captured every single mountain or every single Missouri Valley title for the last 4 years. North Dakota State has 3, and South Dakota nabbed 1 as well. Danny?
Yeah, this was, I think, in my opinion, one of the worst games here. I mean, it's mostly because their wide receivers weren't really good at catching. This wasn't really a high-flying game, so it was basically whoever's defenses was able to break first, determine who won, basically.
There was a lot of time the ball was in the air, though. There was plenty of punts in this game. Pigbear?
I mean, you get a snoozer for the last 40 seconds. I agree with Danny. I would have only watched the last 40 seconds of this football game if I could.
And Foxy?
Sometimes the defense comes in when the offense is off, and for North Dakota State, that is definitely what they needed. There's an old adage that goes defense wins championships, and it's very true here today.
All right, let's move on now. The penultimate game here, the Sun Belt Championship, pardon me. Coastal Carolina was riding in their first season as a Sun Belt member. Amazing on the year, 11-1, top 25 ranking for the first time in school history this season. However, North Texas said, "Screw that! You're not any better than us. We're going to blow you out in New Orleans. We're not only gonna beat you, we're gonna look like you were never that good in the first place. 49-14, the final score. The North Texas Mean Green roll to win the 2022 Sun Belt Championship. Danny?
I mean, it makes sense for why they were so dominant. They were the first team to clinch a conference championship spot. They were high flying, super scoring offense, and Gladys can do this much for Coastal Carolina. They still got to applaud themselves for a great first year in the spell. So, gotta see how they do within the upcoming seasons.
You're glitching out a little bit, Danny. I think we did hear you.
Oh, that.
Yeah. All right. Pigbear?
I mean, you can't discredit the season the Chanticleers have, but my God, the Eagles tried to do that. Great win from the North Texas Mean Green.
The Mean Green. Foxy?
Oh, Coastal Carolina coming in, sounding like they're on top of the world. They think they're all that there is. They think they're all that. But North Texas turns into the school bully green and absolutely pummels them into the dirt.
From the Mean Green to the Cruel Green, for sure. North Texas unbeaten in the conference in the year. They finish 10-3. We'll move on to the final conference championship game at, of course, the Alamo Dome, the WAC championship. Idaho and Nevada, after a last week chaos in the WAC, the Vandals slipped into the conference championship game slot. The 41 Idaho Vandals, 35 Nevada Wolfpack. Final score took us through overtime. Both teams were ranked entering this, and it was a great classic, a perfect way to end championship week. The Vandals capture the title. Danny?
Yeah, for Idaho, this was a good win for them. They did a lot of impressive things this year, including beating the Nevada team, who was looking like they were going to a potential BCS championship or BCS bowl game. And, well, they had a great season, and they had a lot of things fall in line for them.
And a Pigbear?
This is kind of the opposite of what you saw in the Missouri Valley Championship, high scoring overtime game.
Yeah, Foxy?
Boy, Idaho realized Nevada on that one.
Huh. All right, in overtime, the final 41-35. Both teams are over 10 wins, which is something the WAC can definitely hold in high regard. Let's move on now from the conference championships. We're going to talk about the one team left who hasn't punched their ticket to the Bulls already. That is Navy, who is not guaranteed technically to make the Bulls. They still have one big game, which of course we'll talk about later. Let's move on from there, though, to another look into other football across the country. We've looked at Division III and Division II playoffs. Let's look at the FCS playoffs this week. Here are the rules to the FCS playoffs, which are changed this year from last, as expanded from 32 to 36, or expanded from 33 to 37, which we'll explain. Unlike Division II and Division III, they are not regional. They are sorted by a power ranking system. The conference champions automatically qualify for the tournament. The bracket takes the top 35 teams in the FCS, including the champions, as well as the MEAC and SWAC champions. The 1 and 2 seeds get the automatic bids. The top 2 seeds host regional games. The Celebration Bowl, played on December 17th between the MEAC and SWAC champion, acts as a first round. The winner of that plays in essentially the wild card round of the FCS playoff for the first regional. The final 6 teams at the end of everything are reseeded and play each other at the neutral site in Frisco, of course, Toyota Stadium. And we'll move on from here. Let's start in the first regional in Kennesaw, Georgia. The first semifinal game, East Tennessee taking on UC Davis. The winner of that plays the number 1 Kennesaw State Owls. And then we see the Celebration Bowl, the number 24 Florida A&M Rattlers, the number 9 Southern Jaguars. The winner takes on number 14 Northern Colorado. And the winner of the Celebration Bowl winner in Northern Colorado takes on number 13 St. Francis, Pennsylvania's Red Flash. Danny, your thoughts here?
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of good matchups. I mean, the one I'm definitely gonna be watching will be the Celebration Bowl. It's always a great matchup to see.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, Foxy or Pigbear?
I mean, I think the Buccaneers are a dark horse to win it all of East Tennessee.
Ah. Foxy, any thoughts?
Oh boy, that Celebration Bowl is going to be quite the tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
I expect Southern to run away with it.
I could see at the end of the regionals, I could see a matchup between Kennesaw State and Southern to decide who heads on to Frisco. That would be very interesting. But don't rule out Florida A&M or Northern Colorado, I think. We'll move on now to the Valparaiso regional. Valparaiso played in the national championship game in the FCS last season. They lost to the now FBS and probably soon FCS North Dakota Fighting Hawks. They they've had an amazing season after a very good Cinderella story. But we'll start with the regionals here. Bryant taking on number 25 Utah Tech, the school formerly known as Dixie State. The winner of that game takes on the number 6 Valparaiso Knights. We'll move on to the other side. Stonehill Skyhawks take on the number 15 Stony Brook Seawolves. The winner gets the number 10 Abilene Christian Wildcats. I think my favorite team here is probably Abilene Christian. They've been having the season of a lifetime for such a new program to Division 1. They finally managed a season to click, and I think that this is the year that they take control and move on to Frisco for the first time in school history. Danny?
Yeah, there's a bunch of good matchups here. I mean, a lot of these teams they are really well respected within both their conference and nationally, and hell, even a bunch of FBS teams they're even afraid of some of these teams because they might afraid of losing to them. But these teams are always some of the best teams there are.
Pigbear?
I agree with you. I think we might see again. I've got a dark horse versus kind of a dark horse here. I got the Wildcats playing the Buccaneers in the national championship, and I think Abilene Christian will end ETSU joyriding the Natty. But yeah, I think the Wildcats are a good team to look out for.
Really, we have a lot more to go, so don't be too confident in that guess. Foxy?
I wouldn't be too confident in that guess, Pigbear, but for the sake of Fox themed YouTube channel that I really watch a lot of here, I don't care that they changed their name to Utah Tech. Go Dixie Do.
All right. We'll move on now to the next regional, the Albany regional. Number 21 Hofstra taking on the Hofstra Pride taking on the San Diego Toreros. The winner takes on the number 2 Albany Great Danes. They were the number 1 overall seed last season. They had a great playoff run, but were stopped, I believe, by Valparaiso. Actually, I can check here. They were stopped by North Dakota, who had gone to win the national title. On the other side of the bracket, Minnesota Duluth and number 18 Ferris State face off in a battle of the Bulldogs. The winner gets the number 12 CSU Northridge Matadors. From this group, I like Albany to take initiative, and I think they beat Ferris State to move on to the championship neutral site. Danny?
Yeah, there's a lot of good matches. I really like Albany here. I really do think they could potentially this group, but yeah.
Pigbear?
Call me crazy. This isn't formatted like the NCAA baseball tournaments, right? Where you play.
It's not double elimination.
No, it formatted like you play all your games at the regional host site, or do you play at home stadiums?
They play at home stadiums. The top 2 teams play at the home stadium of the highest seed. The top 2 games go to the highest seed, the bottom 2 the second highest, and then the super regional is basically the top seed versus whoever came from the other side.
So technically so let's say Albany gets eliminated. It'll still be called the Albany Regional vote.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, I think the Great Danes could do well here.
All right, we'll move on now to the Flagstaff Regional. The number 20 Savannah State Tigers. Now, the MEAC and SWAC can send more than one team to the tournament. However, any other MEAC or SWAC teams have to qualify as at-large bids, which is not an easy task. However, Savannah State was definitely good enough to make the cut here. They take on Campbell, the Fighting Camels, in the first wild card. The winner gets the number 5 Northern Arizona Lumberjacks at the Walkup Sky Dome. On the other side of the bracket, Augustana, making their first ever NCAA FCS tournament appearance. They take on number 19 Morehead State, and the winner gets the number 8 New Hampshire Wildcats. I think my favorite team here, aside from a potential Cinderella run from a team like Savannah State, I like New Hampshire to take this group by storm. Danny?
I'm going to take Northern Arizona to win this crew. I mean, Northern Arizona, they are really impressive. They are a consistently good FCS team, so I think they'll perform here.
Pigbear?
Let me pick the most southern in culture of the New England states, New Hampshire. Go Wildcats.
Foxy?
Good luck to Augustana there for making their first FCS tournament here.
Are they your Cinderella pick?
Maybe they could be. Who knows?
We're gonna move on from there to the West Long Range Regional. The first regional game, Wayne State Warriors of Detroit taking on the Lehigh Mountain Hawks. The winner gets the number 3 Monmouth Hawks. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, Central Connecticut State taking on number 16 Tennessee State, who had a great run last year. The winner gets number 11 Gardner Webb. My favorite team here, while I do appreciate Gardner Webb and the incredible run they've had this season, probably their best season in school history, give me Tennessee State to come out of this division on top. They had an amazing performance last season, making it all the way to the quarterfinals last year. They lost to Valparaiso, but I think that they run it back and go big places as an HBCU. Danny?
Yeah, these guys, they always do pretty good stuff. I'm actually going to go with Gardner Webb. Gardner Webb, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the first time they're ever hosting the FCS playoff.
That is true.
Yep. So I think their fans are hungry. They're excited to be hosting all these games, and I'm sure they're going to come out and cheer for the team.
All right. Pigbear?
I'm going to agree with you, Danny. I want my local boys, Cleveland County. They're running Bulldogs.
And Foxy?
Since everyone else is rooting for Gardner Webb here, I'm going to have to go with them for the West Long Range Regional here. Just out of pure pressure.
All right. That's how you do it. We'll move on now to a group Foxy's going to like. This is the last regional. This is the Richmond Regional of Kentucky. We have the Bucknell Bison taking on the Michigan Tech Huskies. The winner gets the number 4 Eastern Kentucky Colonels in Richmond, Kentucky. On the other side of the bracket, Jacksonville taking on number 17 St. Cloud State. The Dolphins playing the Huskies. The winner gets the number 7 Marist Red Foxes out of Poughkeepsie. Right now, a lot of good teams here. Eastern Kentucky having one of their best seasons this year. Though Foxy's probably going to agree with this, I'm going to pick Marist. I think they're looking back on some great seasons they've had before, and they want to get back to that pinnacle once again. Last season was a bit of a disappointment for even a team like Marist. They made it all the way to the quarterfinals, but that wasn't enough for the Red Foxes. They want to take it to the next level, and I think they're hungry enough to take it away from the teams in their regional. Danny?
Give me Marist. Marist, they are looking quite impressive. They have themselves a lot of good wins, so give me the Foxes to win.
Pigbear?
At first, I got tripped up for a second. Even though Richmond is an FBS team, I thought, again, are the Spiders FCS? You get mixed up sometimes. They're a SoCon member. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
My baby, I'm sorry. But, yeah, give me the homeboys. Let's go Colonels.
The
go
Colonels. And Foxy?
Oh man, you had my three tails attention right there when I saw that team. Go Red Foxes.
You're picking
Do
Maris.
not I'm not gonna I'm gonna stay away from the joke I was about to make right there because good God, I don't want this to get taken down, but
All right. Let's move on now from the SCS. We got to talk about award season. It's about time. We have Danny here who's going to highlight the winners as I announce them. We have a lot of awards to get through tonight. We're going to look through them as fast as possible. We're going to start with the Maxwell Award, an award given to the Maxwell Committee's Best Player of the Year. The nominees here: Mason Booth out of Oklahoma State, Mike Freund from Illinois, Lance Jenkins from Memphis, Trey Justice of Georgia Tech, Terrence Noel of Oregon, Brandon Williams of USC, and Cameron Yates of Boise State. Danny, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. The winner of the Maxwell Award is going to be Trey Justice, halfback out of Georgia Tech. A great performance for Trey, the lead name on the Georgia Tech rushing attack that really stormed through the season this year. Up next, we have another Player of the Year award, the Walter Camp Award. Nominees here: Mason Booth from Oklahoma State, Cameron Hansen, Northern Illinois, Javari Johnson, Boise State, Trey Justice, Georgia Tech, Charlie Malone out of North Carolina, Avery McKay out of TCU, and Terrence Noel from Oregon. The winner of the Walter Camp Award, that's going to be Avery McKay, quarterback, TCU. Great. Congratulations to the Horned Frogs and McKay for that award. We'll move on to the Davey O'Brien Award, the award given to the best quarterback of the year. The nominees: Dominic Goodman, quarterback out of Kansas, Cameron Hansen from Northern Illinois, Lance Jenkins from Memphis, Charlie Malone of North Carolina, Avery McKay of TCU, Dwayne Stallings of New Mexico State, and Marvin Walker from Stanford. And the winner of this award, the Davey O'Brien Award, is going to be Avery McKay, quarterback, TCU. That's McKay's second award of the night. We'll move on now to the Doak Walker Award, the best running back in the country. Nominees: Mason Booth, Oklahoma State, Jesse Crawford, LSU, Javari Johnson, Boise State, Trey Justice, Georgia Tech, Terrence Noel of Oregon, Oliver Rust of Notre Dame, and Nathan Salazar of Missouri. And the winner of the Doak Walker Award, Terrence Noel, halfback, Oregon. That finishes our first slide here. Congratulations to these players. We'll move on now to the Biletnikoff Award, given to the best wide receiver in the country. The nominees here: Calvin Doherty, wide receiver, Virginia Tech, Orlando Harper, wide receiver from Texas, Rodney Johnson, the wideout for Clemson, Brett Mansfield, wide receiver for Michigan, Matt Tyson, wide receiver for TCU, Charlie Weeks, wideout for BYU, and Brandon Williams, the wide receiver for USC. And the winner of the Biletnikoff Award is going to be Brandon Williams, wide receiver, USC. We'll move on now to the Mackey Award for the best tight end in the nation. Nominees: Nate Castillo, tight end, UConn, Sam Dockery, tight end, North Carolina, Mike Freund from Illinois, Steve Johnson, Notre Dame, J.P. Miller from Baylor, Casey Turner, Washington, and Matthew Vaughn, USC. And the winner for this award is going to be Mike Freund, tight end, Illinois. Move on to from there to the Outland Trophy, the best interior lineman in the country. The nominees are Jared Reed, left tackle, Michigan, Robert Wayne, right guard, Indiana, Anthony Boyd, right tackle, Stanford, James Holycross, left tackle, Connecticut, Jared Clifford, left tackle of Rutgers, Andy Smith, right guard of Alabama, and Jamal Quinn, left guard out of Baylor. And the winner of the Outland Trophy is Jared Reed, left tackle, Michigan. And then move on from there to the Remington Trophy. This award goes to the best center in the nation. The nominees: Jay Massey, Virginia Tech, Patrick Allen, Illinois, Anthony Davis, Florida State, Alan Hamby, Auburn, Lucas Bryant, Oregon, Ken Larson, Tennessee, and Michael Williams, Northwestern. And the winner of the Remington Trophy is Jay Massey, Virginia Tech. All right, we're going to move on now To the defensive side of the ball, we have some defensive awards, starting with the Lombardi Award, a general award for best defensive player. The nominees are Vincent Bell, left end, Virginia Tech; Jermaine Brown, strong safety, UConn; Dennis James, right end, Utah; Harrison Matthews, outside linebacker, Michigan State; Donald McGill, outside linebacker from William & Mary; Josh Tompkins, strong safety, Georgia; Lonnie Warren, left end, Florida Atlantic. And the winner of the Lombardi Award is Jermaine Brown, strong safety, Connecticut. Up next is the Bednarik Award. This award goes to another general best defensive player. The nominees for this year are Vincent Bell, Virginia Tech; Jermaine Brown, Connecticut; Stephen Kirkpatrick, Stephen F. Austin; Donald McGill, William & Mary; Ross Pearson, middle linebacker for New Mexico State; Josh Tompkins for Georgia; and Eric Warren out of Notre Dame. And the winner of the Bednarik Award is Jermaine Brown, strong safety, Connecticut. That's his second award of the night. Move on to the Bronco Nagurski Award, one more general defensive award. The nominees for this are as follows: Vincent Bell, Virginia Tech; Jermaine Brown, Connecticut; Jerome Cook, Arizona State; Stephen Kirkpatrick, Stephen F. Austin; Donald McGill, William & Mary; Josh Tompkins, Georgia; and Eric Warren of Notre Dame. And the winner of the Bronco Nagurski Award, Stephen Kirkpatrick, defensive tackle, Stephen F. Austin. We move on to the Dick Butkus Award, goes to the best linebacker in the nation. We have Roger Bracken from Ohio State; Connor Holley, Oklahoma State; Kendrick Ivey, UCLA; Jeremy Laurie, Stanford; Harrison Matthews, Michigan State; Donald McGill, William & Mary; and Ross Pearson, New Mexico State. And the award for the Dick Butkus Award goes to Donald McGill, William & Mary, outside linebacker. All right, we'll move on now to our next awards. We have 6 on screen right now, starting with the Jim Thorpe Award for best secondary player, starting with Jermaine Brown out of Connecticut; Justin Rose, cornerback, TCU; Garth Seals, cornerback for Baylor; Mike Taylor, cornerback for Oregon; Josh Tompkins, strong safety, Georgia; Gerald Wilson, cornerback for Georgia Tech; and Timmy Williamson, the free safety of Dave Show. And the winner of the Jim Thorpe Award, Jermaine Brown, strong safety, Connecticut. That will be his 3rd award of the night. I'll move on now to the Ted Hendricks Award for best defensive lineman. Nominees: Vincent Bell, Virginia Tech; Dennis James, Utah; Leonard McAfee, Connecticut; Anthony Norton, Illinois; Carl Petway, Stanford; Zach Sherman, Indiana; and Lonnie Warren, Florida Atlantic. And the winner of this award is going to be Vincent Bell, the left end out of Virginia Tech. All right, we'll move on now to the Lombardi Award, the best interior defensive lineman. The nominees here: Jason Bellamy, defensive tackle, Virginia Tech; Jerome Cook, DT, Arizona State; Scott Dunbar, defensive tackle, Tennessee; Stephen Kirkpatrick, defensive tackle, Stephen F. Austin; Clint Mosley, defensive tackle, LSU; Kyle Robinson, DT, Nebraska; and Eric Warren, defensive tackle of Notre Dame. And the winner of the Lombardi Award, Stephen Kirkpatrick, defensive tackle, Stephen F. Austin. All right, and from there we go to special teams, starting with the Ray Guy Award. This goes to the best punter in the nation. The nominees: Gerald Cleveland, Boise State; Seth Dawson, Auburn; Adam Harper, Connecticut; Cameron Miller, Northwestern; Drew Wesley, Duke; Marcus Wesley, Georgia; and Ryan Wise, TCU. And the winner for best punter of the year, the Ray Guy Award, goes to Marcus Wesley, the punter from Georgia. We'll move on now to the Lou Groza Award for best kicker in the nation. The nominees in this category are Brian Butler, kicker for Michigan; Kyle Harris, the kicker for Arkansas State; Antoine Keller, the kicker for Northern Illinois. Corey Rhodes, kicker for Baylor. Matt Robertson, kicker for Houston. Mike Thibodeau, kicker for Washington. And Jonathan Washington, kicker of San Jose State. And the winner of the Lou Groza Award, Matt Robertson, the kicker from the University of Houston. And the final field award, or before we get to the biggest awards of the year, the Returner of the Year award for the best kick and punt returner in the country. The nominees: Travis Humphrey, Nevada; Greg Kidd, Rutgers; Gerard McDonald, Oregon State; Ryan Rust, Maryland; Matt Tyson, Texas Christian; Charlie Weeks, BYU; and Brandon Williams, USC. And the winner of Returner of the Year, it's going to be Brandon Williams, return man, USC. That wraps up the player field, aside from the big award, of course. We have one more award before the final event. We have the Coach of the Year award. This one, of course, going to the best coach of the 2022 season. The nominees and a brief descriptor will be as follows: Nick Brown, Boise State, leading the Broncos, of course, to potentially a national championship and one of the most dominant seasons the FBS has seen in years. Randy Butler, USC, taking a team from the fringe into a national contender. Brian Culp, Massachusetts, building a program basically from scratch. Over the years, he has managed to reach the full potential and really see it blossom with this UMass team this season. Haven Ellery, Stephen F. Austin, brought in off the staff of North Carolina State. He finally has his own chance to shine with a new squad, and how dominant he has been this season is incredible. Cliff Jackson, Kansas, turning Kansas from a laughing stock into a contender is no easy feat, and Cliff Jackson had everything you needed to do just that. Matt Muse, Georgia Tech. Very rarely does a coach do so surprisingly well and revolutionize their own offense in their first year as a college head coach. But Muse, the youngest coach to ever be nominated for this award, has done just that and put Georgia Tech as a true national powerhouse. And we'll wrap up with Kenneth Washington out of TCU. He's been there for years. We've known about this guy's talents, but he's just taken them above and beyond, and hopefully they'll finish themselves out strong this season. And now we'll finally reveal the Coach of the Year, and the award goes to Matt Muse, Georgia Tech. The youngest person to ever win the Coach of the Year awards at 44 years old. We'll now move on here to the moment you've all been waiting for, the Heisman Trophy. Here are the Heisman finalists once again, for those who are not familiar. We have 7 finalists in the Heisman Trophy. Here they are all listed out for you. Mason Booth, Oklahoma State, the running back. Explosive runs completely littered the Oklahoma State season this year. The highlight reels, you can't go more than 15 seconds without seeing a Booth highlight here. Jermaine Brown, strong safety, Connecticut. You always have one defensive player who shines above the rest and really earns themselves a Heisman nomination. However, a win for a defensive player is very rare. Can Jermaine Brown break it tonight? Javari Johnson, Boise State. The biggest, most dominant offense the 2KU has seen in years, and it's almost all thanks, in part, to the power that Johnson delivers on every play. Trey Justice, running back, Georgia Tech. The year of the running back for sure, and Trey Justice is probably that personified. We've already seen him win an award earlier tonight. Can he do it again and deliver Georgia Tech their first Heisman in almost 33 years? Avery McKay, quarterback, TCU. We've had 5 non-power teams get a Heisman Trophy. Can TCU join that list and win their first Heisman Trophy since the Southwest Conference was a thing? If any player is going to do it, it is the incredible quarterbacking skills of one Avery McKay. And we'll wrap up with Dwayne Stallings, quarterback, New Mexico State. An underrated name who's been bubbling under for quite some time. However, his play has been dominant all season. You saw it with huge scoring all year. One of the best offenses in the country, led by one of the best signal callers in the land. And it's time for our 2022 Heisman Trophy. And the award goes to Trey Justice, halfback, Georgia Tech. Justice winning the Heisman Trophy for Georgia Tech. A great award year for GT. They've had some. He won the Maxwell Award earlier as well. Congrats to all the award winners as well as the nominees here. Their seasons are not done yet. They still have a lot to prove. A lot of these guys still have more years in college, so keep an eye on some of these names going down the stretch. Danny, who do you think of all the players you saw was the best player you've seen this year?
I mean, you can't really go wrong with Trey Justice. I mean, Georgia Tech, they've had a really good running game, and yes, they did not accomplish all their goals, but they still have one of the best players there in the country. Another player who I just saw, let me just get back their name. Where are they? Where are they? I think probably potentially Brandon Williams from USC. I mean, they had a great year. They are one of the best teams around the country, and they could potentially go a lot further more.
Mm-hmm. Pigbear? Foxy?
Takes a lot of Heisman. Some players walking home with multiple awards. We got some amazing players here. Can't really tell you who I think is the best because I don't watch 2KU admittedly as often as I should, but
Understandable.
props to all various awards that they've won.
Mm-hmm. I would like to give notice to some smaller schools winning some big hardware for the first time. Of course, Stephen F. Austin and William and Mary getting some of their best hauls, and UConn with an incredible haul of nominations and awards, of course. We'll move on now from there to the top 25, probably the second most anticipated thing in this 2KU weekly stream. We're going to be going a little different this time, of course, because we only have one more game to play before the postseason is upon us. So we're going to be going up to number 1, climbing our way there gradually, of course. We're going to be starting on the bottom side. Number 25 is going to be Oregon State, popping into the top 25 for the first time this season, and for the first time in quite some time, definitely. Number 24, Northern Illinois. They were the only 11-win team to not play in their conference championship game. They lost to Central Michigan and were out on tiebreakers because of it. Number 23, Nevada, even with a loss to Idaho, they are still an incredibly dangerous team for anyone who has to face them. Number 22 is Memphis. The Tigers lost out on a BCS berth with the loss to UCF, but they'll definitely be hungry for some sort of happy ending this season. And number 21 is UMass, returning to the top 25 after slipping out thanks to a loss to a white-hot UConn team. Danny, your thoughts on these 5?
Yeah, some of these teams they really had a disappointing end. I mean, Memphis, you were looking up and you just got sucker punched. Nevada, same with you, but also congratulations to Oregon State for finally making it in. They deserve it, and Northern Illinois, they're still consistently good.
Foxy?
Oh boy, this bottom five is full, as Danny said, of disappointing ends here. I don't know if Oregon State belongs here, but big props to them for making it in for the first time.
Oregon State's last win of the year was over and at the time ranked Oregon. We'll move on now to the next five, 20 to 16, starting at number 20. Oh, pardon me. It'll be Washington, who remains at the same level this week. Michigan, only slipping a little thanks to teams above them. And number 18, Idaho, WAC champions 2022. Number 17 will be Baylor, who didn't play this week. However, they are probably the third best team in the WAC, or in the Big 12 for sure. Number 16 is UCF, the Conference USA champions, had a huge upset over the Memphis Tigers, and hope to finish their season strong with a bowl win coming up. Danny, your thoughts on these five?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for my Knights to be just barely right outside the top 15, but they could definitely do so soon. And like teams like Idaho, who had a great win over Nevada, and for a bunch of these teams, they were all highly ranked at some point. So it's a good little area for them.
Foxy?
As a soon-to-be Orlando resident, really happy to see UCF doing so well here. But watch out for Idaho. If anyone above them loses, they could finish pretty high up if they win their bowl.
All right, we're going to move on to our next five up, 15 through 11. Number 15 is Stanford. The Stanford Cardinal lost the conference championship to USC. A tough game. Number 14 is Michigan State, who is going to Pasadena with the win over Illinois. Huge game for Sparty. Number 13, Georgia Tech lost to LSU, though I expect to see them going bowling, of course, 11-2. Number 12 is Colorado. The Buffaloes punched their ticket to the BCS Bowls with a huge upset win over Oklahoma State. And number 11, North Carolina, definitely reeling from a championship loss. They got so close and just had to watch it slip away from them. That leaves their BCS hopes up in the balance as some other teams below them automatically qualify. I don't know if the Tar Heels get in or not. It's going to be a tough decision for the BCS committee. But Danny, you got thoughts?
Yeah, good job for Michigan State. You
Hello, Danny?
am?
You cut out.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Okay, well the team here who was the most surprising is Colorado, who skyrocketed to number 12. I mean, they were like number 18, I believe, and now here they are number 12. Great job for the Bills.
The Buffs. Foxy?
The Buffs.
Oh, Colorado AP poll kind of did you dirty there. I think it should be just a tad higher, maybe like 9 or 8. Some big win for Michigan State. Maybe they should also be a little bit higher as well. Some tough pills to swallow though for North Carolina Stanford fans.
Mm-hmm. The Spartans and the Buffaloes entered their games 9-3. They got their 10th wins with wins over the Buffs and the Illini in their respective conferences. We'll move on now to the top 10. The best 10 teams in the nation. We'll start at number 10. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. We have TCU starting our top 10. The Horned Frogs did not play in their conference championship game, but have finished with an 11-1 record. Number 9 is Stephen F. Austin. The Lumberjacks are 12-0, one of 2 unbeaten teams in the country. The Jacks are for sure locked into a BCS berth. The Southland's first ever BCS berth since the BCS was formed in 98. Number 8 is Temple. An incredible win for the Owls bumps them up to 11-2. One of their best seasons in school history, and definitely their highest ranking position in school history. They'll have a dual setup in the BCS Bowls for sure. Number 7, UConn. I expect to see the Huskies also in a BCS Bowl. even in spite of them losing their conference. Whether or not they should be below Temple is up for debate, but the committee put the Huskies above them for their better record. Move on to number 6, the Illinois Fighting Illini, slipping from number 3 in the polls down to number 6, the 12-1 Illini are 12-1 Illini are definitely BCS bound as well. Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, for a lot of these teams, they were looking for a national championship spot, but they just collapsed again. And their opponents in conference championship week, especially 6-8 or 6-7. I mean, that really sucks for them. But we got a lot of great miracles like Stephen F. Austin.
Foxy?
Oh boy, we got some big stories in both Stephen F. Austin alongside Temple here. As for UConn and Illinois, some seriously tough pills to swallow as now their BCS bowl hopes effectively remain inbound.
All right. Pigbear, if you're there, any thoughts? All right, we'll move on from here. We'll reveal our number 5 spot, then our number 4 will be going upwards to see who slips into the national championship with all the chaos around it. We're going to start at number 5 with we're going to start at number 5 with Oklahoma State, the Cowboys falling to the Colorado Buffaloes in double overtime. A lot of people thought with all the chaos around them, they may or may not have a chance in the national championship, but they are just on the outside looking in. We'll move on now to the number 4 spot. That's going to be LSU. The Tigers finished 12-1 with the conference championship win over Georgia Tech. The committee really didn't like the fact that they had that big loss to Tulane at the end of the season. And that'll definitely weigh on them for quite some time. It just is a what if scenario now. If you beat Tulane, you're in the national championship without a question. But you'll have to ponder that for some other time. We'll move on to number 3. This is going to tell us a lot. There are 3 teams left. We have 3 teams left. USC, Boise State, and Virginia Tech. Who is going to be the 3? It's going to be Virginia Tech. The Hokies managed a last-second win over the Tar Heels to finish their season 12-1. Another case where their loss is the biggest thing that holding them back. They lost to Maryland earlier on in the season. The biggest upset that they faced this year. If another case like LSU, if you don't lose that game, you're in a national championship game, no questions asked. We're going to look at our number 2. That's going to be the one team in the top 5 who didn't. These are going to be 2 teams in the top 5 that didn't lose, starting with the former number 5. That's going to be USC. The Trojans, with chaos above them, are your number 2 and are looking to be in the national championship game. And then we have, of course, the one team above them. It's Boise State for the first time in school history. Your APA, I guess. Your number 1 team in the country. The best offense in the country. The best defense in their conference. Expect to see the Broncos make waves in the national championship game. Danny?
Yeah, that it's really impressive to see all these teams, and congratulations to all of them, especially Boise State, who pulled off the impossible per se.
And Foxy?
Boise State, we're rooting for you to bring legitimacy to the Mountain West and win a national championship. Should have happened in 2007.
All right. We'll move on now. That's going to wrap us here. We have one more game coming up, of course. Actually, before we do, we have some teams receiving votes. Of course, we have Columbia performing very well in the votes, as well as Army's at 9-3. Columbia 10-2 on the year, and Ivy League champions. They win their bowl game. They are for sure going to end up in the top 25. Also looking outside, teams who lost their conference title games, Central Michigan and Coastal Carolina, both at 10-3. Actually, Coastal should be at 11-2. I believe. North Dakota State 9-4, slipping into the slipping away with the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. The Bison got a upset win over Northern Iowa. Kansas is here as well. They were a contender for the longest time in the Big 12. Their biggest sticking point was then losing their last two to Missouri and Kansas State. Thank you for that. Ohio looking on the outside as well. Big upset win over the Chippewas to wrap out their season. And New Mexico State, who slipped out of the top 25 after a loss to UTEP. That wraps up the others receiving votes. And that wraps us up here. Of course, we have one more game before the Bowls this Saturday. Don't forget to tune in December 10th, 2022, of course, for our usual 8:30 time slot. We have Army and Navy, of course, the Army-Navy game, one of the best rivalries, as I mentioned at the beginning, of all sports, let alone college football. Stay tuned for America's game. The Black Knights are riding in 9-3. The cadets the midshipmen who serve as the home team in this game are 5-7. They need a win in order to secure bowl eligibility. I think that Army is a heavy favorite in this game, though I wouldn't be too confident. I wouldn't be too confident in picking against Navy in this contest. This can go either way, I think. And I'm going to go the upset. I'm picking Navy to win this game. Danny?
Give me Army. I believe Army should take care of business quite easily, and I believe after this, they could be potentially ranked in the top 25.
Very much possibility. And Foxy, who are you picking?
I'm going to go ahead and pick Army here. While Navy is going to come in hungry, I would not underestimate Army, especially in a rivalry game where they have performed infinitely better in the season leading up to it.
Mm-hmm. If Pigbear, if you're awake, you want to give us your pick in the Army-Navy game? All right. So don't forget to tune in there on December 10th. Don't forget to tune in on December 11th. That stream, we are going to be revealing the bowl berths. Of course, on 2KU Weekly, we have over 40 bowls to reveal. So stay tuned on that. We'll be keeping in touch. Of course, we have big streams all holiday long. So make sure to subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications, and of course leave a comment telling us what you thought of 2KU this year and what you hope to see coming up outside of football or outside of college sports. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you guys